what's going on with kids today, right, as it relates to this kind of stuff, and what are some of your concerns? We'll start there, and then maybe we get into some ideas of how parents can help their kids who might be silently struggling with this, or at least on the track to moving in a direction where they can end up with a big problem. What's going on today with kids in society?
Yeah, I think the biggest problem in this is, very close to home for me, because it's a certain family member that I have. It's the biggest fear that I see, or the biggest challenge I see with parents, is them thinking, oh, it's not going to happen to my Johnny, or, I'm raising a good kid. He's got great grades and, he's active in sports, so he's not going to fall into this. Let me preface this. Like, I was a straight A student, like from first grade to 10th grade, like not a B on a report card. I was an all-star athlete. Like, I was a popular kid. Like, and I don't want to say this like in a way where like I'm not bragging about my childhood, but I was that kid that was like all-star team, picked first, like, president of the honor society and whatnot. So I was a great young boy, and I still struggled with it. So I think the biggest thing that, if I could say to any parent, is your little kid is not special. It will find him. And I think it's important to phrase it that way. There will come a point in your young child's life when his eyes see something that his brain is not developed to handle. So what can parents do is they got to get in front of it, and it's got to be tackled with trust and having real conversation. So first and foremost, like, if there is a guy that's struggling with it and he's thinking about, how do I prevent my kids from doing it? Get yourself under control first, because you can't go have a conversation with your young son about what he's going to face in the future if you're still struggling with it, because that conversation is not going to come off authentic. Kid's going to read right through it. Trust me, like from a subconscious level, a kid is going to know that you are not being real and honest. Now, once you're beyond that and you're ready to have the conversations, like I said, start having the conversation early. There's some great resources out there. There's an amazing book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. It's for younger kids, probably, 5 to 7 years old. But it's just understanding when you see something that maybe doesn't sit with you, this is why, and this is what you need to do with it. So planting those seeds early on. And then on the social media side, I mean, it's definitely something that it's a balancing act, because, how can you tell a parent, like, don't give your kid a certain device when it's becoming a part of our world and they need to have it. But there's some parental controls out there that you can look at doing, trying to limit, certain apps. I think there's even phones specifically for kids, which only allow you to access some of these apps. But I think you gotta set the tone. Like, it's not like you have to establish the rules. If it's, you're going to check their phones, at night, you're going to review what they're looking at. Their phone's going to be linked up to yours. There's another great organization out there called Protect Young Minds, led by Christopher McKenna, which all of their content is centered around like the dangers out there, new technologies coming out. It's not a lot of what we focus on. It's obviously we have the conversation about it. But if I can direct people to Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Protect Young Minds. But I think more importantly, it's understanding that no matter what an amazing job you're doing as a parent, there will come a time where they're going to be exposed to it. So just accept that first as a parent. Be ready when it happens. Educate yourself. A great documentary to watch is maybe Childhood 2.0. You can find that on YouTube, or I believe it's on Netflix as well. Just understanding, once again, the technology and what it's doing. But yeah, just be ready, be equipped, educate yourself, by listening to conversations like this. And then more importantly, getting in front of the issue before
it seems like there's no way to insulate kids from any of this, whether it's their own searching, it's what are their friends doing? They're at school. So it's like, it's going to be exposed. The honest, transparent conversation head on with technology boundaries does seem like the right way.
Yeah. And I'm not a parent. So, I always struggle with this, but I see a problem where if you do try to insulate them and you keep them boxed up in this world, what's going to happen when they leave home? Then they're going to see this whole world, and it's like, well, why didn't mom and dad expose this to me? I'm not saying you need to throw your kids, like just throw them out in the world, but I'm not one that believes like you can keep people boxed up in a container, because eventually they're gonna experience the world. So we have to be able to lay that foundation, do the work, establish the relationship with our kids, so they know that they can trust us. When something doesn't feel well, it doesn't sit well in them, they know that they can come to mom or they can come to dad, because that's what we've conditioned and that's what we've had in our home from day one.
I have a question, and this is really from a curiosity standpoint, is is this just a problem for men and young boys, or is this something that we're talking about in this space right now is affecting women and young girls? I know men obviously have different and more like overt in your face drive and are the biggest consumers of porn, but what's going on with our young women in society today too? Is this something that's discussed?
Great question, and I'm sure you know. I mean, the male and female brain is stimulated differently. William Struthers talks about this in Wired for Intimacy. How the male brain is triggered visually. You know, it's why women wear red lipstick. They put makeup on. Like there's not a guy walking around that's trying to like look a certain way for a woman. Where he takes it in the book is the struggle in women is on the erotica novel side of things. Now, I do hear stories of young girls that have a porn addiction. So I'm not saying that a woman can't, be as addicted or struggle, as compulsively as a man do. I don't see it as regularly, but it's interesting. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson. One of the things that he addressed here about 4-6 months ago, what they're noticing that the fastest rise in transgenderism or the change of the biggest area or the biggest demographic being impacted by that is teenage girls. And why he believes, or what he was trying to link it to, was that these young women are being exposed to it, and they're seeing women being humiliated, being abused, because there's nothing glamorous about the women in pornography. It's abuse. Nothing. If a young girl is going to see this is what I need to do to find a man in my life. Like, I don't want to be abused. I don't want to be raped by 10 men at one time. I don't want to be spit on. Like, this is the stuff that young boys are seeing. So that's how it's conditioning them. And then young women are seeing this is what I need to do. Well, if that's the case, then I'll just be a boy and then I won't have to deal with that anymore. So I know it's way kind of, out there, but I definitely can see how it is linked together. But I say probably, with the young female more than anything, it's conditioning to believe that they need to be like a sexual object to get love or to be accepted by men. That's probably the biggest problem.
And the other thing that I think is very relevant, particularly for young girls right now, is depression and not feeling good about yourself, because we have young girls who are developing that are hopping on Instagram and certain apps and seeing, Photoshop supermodels that are 15 years older than them. And I think there's just a generally a lot of discontent and emotional issues that are playing out in a number of ways right now. So it is definitely a variable, I think, that's turning a lot of people to porn, gaming at a young age. So that's relevant. And the one thing I want to mention too is I think the video gaming, the idea of people playing video games, like if parents listen to this, they're like, yeah, I think my kids of that certain age play a lot of video games. This is also playing on these same dopamine circuits. I think the porn and the video games are very much linked. I think if you see people who are watching a lot of porn at a young age, I'm certainly they're doing video gaming too at the same time. So it's all about like protecting neurochemistry